The Minion Necromancer is all the jazz in Diablo 4's Season 4. If you want to see how I approach the issue, you will actually see a build baby from me and Maxroll. It was very interesting how this one actually came together, because he did his separate Minion Necromancer for his Discord and for his community, while I was doing the same thing for me and for Maxroll, and to put it up on Maxroll. And then we compared our findings basically, and while we still had quite a lot of similarities, we also had stuff that was different. And we sat down, and I think in 2 hours or so, we actually came up and mixed both of the very, very good approaches together and came up with a much better approach that I am actually really proud of, because it will probably be a very interesting minion build to play, because it is going to involve a blood orb mechanic, which is going to give you something that you can do while your minions are carrying you literally through everything. Very important new on the Maxroll guides: as soon as we press the magical Season 4 button and everything is gonna get updated. You will find in the stat priorities section here in chapter 5, we have added the damage scaling and the defense and utility breakpoints. In this case, it's extremely important that you are going to hit the stuff that is mentioned here. Currently, we don't know if the Golem Mastery is actually going to be on all of the armor slots. In case that is not going to be true, or it's not going to be in the full release of Season 4, I will obviously update not only the build guide itself, but obviously also the planner. So it's really important you hit 100% minion critical strike chance, 100% additional minion attack speed, and stuff like the armor cap is non-negotiable, also the resistance cap here, and stuff like corpse tendril size, decrepify size, 100%. We also want you to get above 50% ultimate cooldown reduction, and obviously with the huge availability of it, we want you to have 100% additional movement speed. Now, below that, you are going to see our trusted stat priorities list, where you do have more stats that you can actually fit on an item, so you actually have a little bit of leeway in trying to puzzle your breakpoints together, because there are a lot of ways to getting to these breakpoints, and you can find one, or my way of doing it, in the stat priorities section right here. Or if you are clicking the very top, the embed right here at the very start of the guide, you will actually instantly get into the planner that is behind the written build guide. And then you can also see all of the variants that I have been putting here. I did quite a lot of work. Yeah, you can see this. There's 11 different variants, but I'm currently using this also as my hardcore stuff. So there's 3 hardcore variants that are in there. There is leveling, there is starter. You can go and check this out. The link is obviously down in the description below if you want to see that. But we will only really focus on the end game and the pit version for this video. So we will click this. This variant is already loaded, and now let's go into how we're going to first and foremost puzzle together our minion army. I want you guys to use the defenders, because the 6-second cooldown taunt is actually incredible defensive wise, and there's not really that much that you can choose differently. So please just take the taunt. It's actually insane. Then we want to have the cold mages for basically permanent vulnerability uptime, and we also want to have our big boy Iron Golem with the first upgrade, which is going to deal quite a lot of damage, because we are going to focus all of our attention onto the Golem, not only with the Golem Mastery that is here on the armor. Again, maybe this changes with the full Season 4 release. Maybe it's just on the amulet. We will have to see. But I will obviously update if this is the case. For now, again, we're focusing fully on the Golem Mastery. If it is going to be on the amulet, we obviously want to put it here, ideally together with Hellbent Commander, maybe instead of Hellbent Commander, and then just maybe use both at the same time with getting rid of the cooldown reduction. But let's get into the build itself. So as you can see here, we are actually using Bone Prison, and you might ask what is going on with that. If you have seen my previous videos, especially the Bone Spirit one, then you will actually know of this synergy right here, because we're actually playing Plunging Darkness. Plunging Darkness gives us a free blight every time we are pressing Bone Prison, and the Bone Prison cooldown is going to be fairly low, because we obviously have quite a lot of cooldown reduction, because we want to reduce Army of the Dead anyway, and I'll get into more detail how low the Army of the Dead cooldown is actually going to be. It's going to be insane. And therefore, we also passively reduce the Bone Prison cooldown. So the cooldown here is very, very low, and is going to be further reduced by stuff like Decrepify here, for example. And this is going to allow us, together with Plunging Darkness, to have a supernatural blight every time we press Bone Prison. In this case, we get a free 20% multiplier, which is going to basically bake 2 skills into one. So for having Bone Prison on the bar, we basically get a free blight on top of that, while also having the benefits of the Bone Prison, not only reducing the cooldowns of all of the other abilities that we have, but also providing a whopping 8 seconds vulnerable. So Plunging Darkness translated basically means that you get a 20% damage multiplier, which obviously also affects your minions. So that is going to be very good, and quite a lot of value baked into one aspect, because again, you get 2 skills on your skill bar by basically just putting Bone Prison there, and the 20% damage multiplier, while basically having permanent vulnerable just baked into Bone Prison itself. That's actually, in my opinion, one of the coolest synergies we have in Diablo 4. I hope we get much more of that, because I find stuff like this very interesting when you have to think outside of the box a little bit. Then furthermore, very standard stuff. We're going to use Juggernaut, which is going to be replaced as soon as you get a Shaco. Then we're going to readjust the armor just a tiny bit. You can see that in detail here in the Ubers version, for example, where I'm going to insert the Shaco right there, and then do a little bit of tweaking when it comes to the armor. So we hit the new armor cap of 9,230 with a Shaco. That's obviously something that is very desirable, because you get a 20% damage reduction on top of all of the other stuff that Shaco is providing, while we are not really losing anything, because there's not that many defensive aspects that we can actually put on the Necromancer. So it's a crazy item for minions, even though we don't really profit off of the +4 to all skill ranks that much. Obviously, it reduces the Bone Prison, the Corpse Tendrils cooldowns just a little bit, but again, that's not one of the biggest things for the Minion Necro here. Then we use the Occult Dominion. We want as many minions as possible. Plunging Darkness, I have explained. We do have Blood Getters, which is basically, this basically says that your minions get an additional 21% damage multiplier, because this is a positive feedback loop right back to your minions. This has been tested on the PTR, so your Skeletal Priest basically gives you a 30% damage multiplier when you use it. So you can actually see this here behind my camera. For 8 seconds, they will have 30% increased damage, which is going to give you 70% of that with the Blood Getters, which is 21%, which goes right back to your minions since it's active on you. So that's actually a 21% multiplier right here, and is going to be huge. Then we have Slaughter with all of the other stuff here on the movement. We will have just 70% from the boots itself. We want to have Reanimation on our big 2-hander. Then I personally have put Hardened Bones for the pure minion, or the Minion Necromancer as we call it, on the neck. You can obviously use stuff like Unyielding. You can do the Unyielding on the 2-handed scythe. You can then put the Reanimation on the amulet. But I just wanted to show you guys that this is definitely possible for very, very high pit runs, because 38% damage reduction is actually insane. So keep that in mind, that this is possible to put on the amulet and actually have quite a lot of profit off of this, especially with the new codex changes. It is going to be very easy to replace your stuff on the fly. Then I'll skip that ring, and we have Unyielding, obviously because we're playing Army of the Dead, and it's a huge multiplier. And this is basically where the cool interaction that I've been talking about at the beginning of the video is going to come in clutch. We do have Fast Blood, which gives us the ability to reduce our ultimate cooldown by 2.5 seconds every time we're picking up a Blood Orb. And since we're playing Corpse Tendrils, and we're playing the Corpse Tendrils with the Blighted Corpse Tendrils, we are actually generating quite a lot of Blood Orbs, which is in turn going to reduce the damage, the cooldown that we're going to have on Army of the Dead. So while you are basically kindergartening your minions, you can actually run around and collect Blood Orbs to further boost your uptime of Army of the Dead. I think this is going to be one of the more interesting minion builds that you can play, because you actually have something to do except pressing Corpse Tendrils and Decrepify an Army of the Dead. Now you can actually get Blood Orbs and help your damage that way. For the skill tree, it's actually quite cool that we are running Supernatural Blight or Blight with the Plunging Darkness, so we can actually profit off of Reaper's Pursuit and have a very easy way of reaching the movement speed cap without having to put it on the amulet. We do that by having Death's Approach. We do have Reaper's Pursuit, and then that is being triggered by Plunging Darkness and the Supernatural Blight. Hued Flesh is extremely important, because not only do you need some corpses to consume, but you also want to have the combination in here with the Necrotic Carapace. We saw in the patch notes that the Necrotic Carapace is working together with the Hued Flesh, so this is actually going to give you Fortify, and Fortify, if you remember in the patch notes, has also been buffed. It's now 15%, so that's actually quite a lot if you think about it when it comes to extremely high pit levels. So this is going to come in very handy. Yeah, this is something that we probably won't see in the game as soon as Season 4 launches. This is probably going to be like 7 or so if you get lucky and find it on the amulet and get it to 4 with a greater affix and 1 Masterwork crit. But yeah, we will have to see how this is going to go. I have actually seen that you can take the Supreme Army of the Dead out of here, because your minions are actually way tankier than you, and if something dies that is not enemies, it's going to be you rather than the minions. So you could actually get this point out right here. But again, there is not that much that I would actually put it in here. Maybe you can get it a higher Necrotic Carapace value, but I think it's nice to have. But this is definitely a point that you can remove if you use this for your own base of theory crafting. For example, there's also stuff like the Skeletal Warrior Mastery. You can probably very easily take out these 3 points if you were to need them for other stuff that you want to incorporate, because with all of the stuff going on the Paragon board, especially the Cult Leader board, your minions are going to have huge amounts of damage reduction, so they're basically tankier than you are. When thinking about the breakpoints that we mentioned earlier when we were looking at the written guide, don't forget that Inspiring Leader currently is basically ping-ponging back to your minions. So while you are getting 12% on yourself and your minions get 18%, the 12% that are affecting you from Inspiring Leader actually ping-pong back to the minions. So your minions actually get 30% increased critical strike chance from Inspiring Leader. This is not reflected in the Maxroll planner right here, so you can see we're basically hitting it barely, but it's not that tough to do. So as you can see here, we do have just 1 crit, Masterwork crit on the critical strike chest on the hands. Then we also have crit on the amulet, again with just 1 Masterwork crit, and we do have 1 greater FX, 1 crit, 1 greater FX, 1 crit on the rings. And again, if you were to basically take these 2 out and crit on this one and remove the greater FX, you are still going to be fine. So there are quite a lot of ways how to reach the crit cap. And furthermore, you definitely need to go as high as possible with the attack speed. We do this with the attack speed on the 2-hander right here. And we also temper the minion attack speed onto the 2-hander. And we do have more attack speed on the Paragon board. As you can see here, we do have minion attack speed by the Puppeteer node. And we also have another 2.5% minion attack speed here on the Cult Leader board. And the rest of that is going to be taken care of by Kalan's Edict. Minion Necromancer in Season 4 is actually going to be huge, especially with all of the buffs that we actually have gotten in Season 4. It's going to be a very fun build to play. We will have to see if we get to keep the Golem Mastery on the armor. But even if that is not the case, the damage is still going to be an absolute S-tier build. And it's basically between the Minion version and the Shadow Minion Necromancer when it comes to the top build of the season. And from what we can see right now, hopefully there is going to be some surprises. I definitely recommend you check out the Bone Spirit, build guide as well, because that might actually be something that is currently slept on, and the synergies there are completely crazy. So if you want to check that out, I suggest you check out this video right here. And if you like content similar to this, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, and I'll see you next time.